Hey, everyone, and welcome to Crushing Land. Sorry, this is not a live version of this. We've tried for the last 15 minutes or so to go live, and for some reason it was going live on YouTube, but Facebook would not connect for whatever reason today. So we're just going to record it and put it out there for you. So you'll be getting it a little bit later. We got some messages asking what was going on and just some issue with Facebook today. So we apologize for that, but we're still going to give you the content, and we're here to have a discussion with you. And so what we're going to talk about today is filing a memorandum of contract against a property. Now, this came up in our group a few times in the last week, and so we're going to discuss that. And that's just to remind everybody before we begin again, that if there's something that you're going through or something that you want discussed or anything like that, in one of these Crushing Land series, please reach out to us. You can send an email to us. You can send a DM. You can post it in the group, whatever it is. But if there's something that you would like discussed by us in one of these series, please reach out and let us know. So filing a memorandum of contract, should you do that? I know that there's programs out there, there's people out there up and down teach, file a memorandum of contract against every property, protect yourself, there's shady, all of these things. I'm going to tell you straight up right now that we rarely do this, rarely do it. Generally speaking, probably less than one time a year for all the deals that we do. It's not really necessary. Why is it not necessary? Because if you do things right, you don't run into this many issues. Communication with your sellers is key. If you're staying in communication with them, if you're having discussions with them regularly, then the chances of them doing something behind your back are very low. Does that mean it doesn't happen? No, of course not. There are examples of sellers that are doing things that are going to go behind you and are going to do different things. But then the question you need to ask yourself is, am I going to push this? Right? You may push it to the point of making some threats to them and saying, well, I'm going to do this, or I have legal rights, or whatever it may be. But are you actually going to follow through with that? Right? So that's something that you need to ask yourself as well, because that can determine what strategy you take and how you move forward. I will say this, we do use them here and there. Higher end properties with sellers that are getting a little difficult or uncommunicative and things like that. Yes, we will use them in those cases. However, again, most of the time it is not necessary. Even on higher end properties, it's not necessary. It's usually depending on how the seller reacts and what they're doing and just protecting our interest. Now, that leads to the question of, well, what about specific performance? What about title slander for putting those things on somebody's property? So first, let's talk about title slander. Now, please note, I'm not a real estate attorney. This is not legal advice in any way. This is just advice that I've received from my attorneys and that basically I'm passing on to you. So title slander. Well, title slander is saying something that's false, disparaging, something like that against them that can negatively harm them. That could come into play based on the type of document that you use. I've seen some out there that say the sellers refused to do X, or the sellers did not cooperate, or the sellers this, or the sellers. That could create title slander. I've actually been told that by my own attorney with different documents, and he has given us ones that we use that go around that. They're not talking about the seller, they're talking about the property. We have a contract on the property. We intend to exercise our contract. Even if it goes beyond that date, we intend to do this. So a lot of it has to do with the wording. So again, we have a document that's part of our program that has been updated because of these issues. And we have used it. We actually used it last year, end of last year. We used it once. We haven't used it since. But again, not any issues there. So a lot of it has to do with the wording and what you're saying to them. And again, if there's questions on that, don't reach out to me. I'm not an attorney. I'm just passing along what I've been told and the way that we do it. If you have those type of questions, then you need to reach out to a real estate attorney and let them explain that to you. Then it comes down to specific performance. Specific performance is now moving forward with a lawsuit. Are you going to do that? I can tell you that, again, in over a decade of doing this, we have done this one time. And again, it's very, very rare. And I know people, students that I've worked with, all these different ones, it happens very, very rarely. Are you really going to sue somebody that you're buying a property from for $10,000 that you're going to sell for, for $20,000 or $30,000? Probably not. Now, if you stand to make $100,000 and they sell it out from underneath you, and sure, then you might move forward with things. So a lot of it comes down to, are you actually going to process that or go through with that suit? You're going to have to get an attorney involved. They're going to have to file things with the county. They're going to have to file the suit. They're going to have to notify them. They're going to have to go through all of these different steps that's involved in a lawsuit. What does that mean? It means time and money. So again, is it worth it? So the bottom line for us, and I tell people, is all of these things are very rare. The actual filing of the memorandum of contract we rarely use because communication is key. That is the thing that you want to do the most. You want to communicate. You want to keep your sellers in the loop. You want to be honest with them. You want to be having these discussions. If you're dragging things out because you're trying to find a buyer or whatever the reason is that it's not closing quickly, you want to be having communication with them. You might not be telling them that you're trying to find a buyer, right? But you're going to go through different things and explain different things and at least keep them in the loop. That's important, and it will help you stop losing sellers. Then you're going to have sellers that become difficult. So then you got to ask yourself, well, in those cases, do I even want to file the memorandum? You could file a memorandum still because it does give you some teeth that you can now go back to them, basically say, hey, I have legal rights and I'm going to pursue this. Even if you're not going to, you could say, I have the right to do this and this is my next step. We've done that on occasions, and that has helped where the sellers now back off and say, yes, okay, we'll move forward with it. If they don't want to move forward with it and they say, tough, go ahead, then you've got to ask yourself, well, am I going to go to the next level, which is suit for specific performance? And again, those are questions that you need to be having with a real estate attorney that's in the state where the property is, not where you're located, not where the sellers are, but where the property is. So again, that's just a little bit on filing a memorandum of contract, when we use them, if we use them, all those things. Please note that it's a notarized document. It is something that you need to go sign in front of a notary. You need to send along with a check. You need to have it. You have to have it recorded. So there's a recording fee, those type of things in the county. So there is some expense involved in it. It's pretty low expense, but just some time and expense that you're going to spend. And again, one of the reasons that we don't do it all that often. So again, that's it for that. Thanks for joining us today for Crushing Land. Again, sorry, I apologize that it wasn't live, but we're still bringing you the content. It'll be uploaded here on Facebook and YouTube shortly, and as well if you're listening on the podcast, and we will catch you all next week. Thanks a lot.